I'm not kidding you. They got Kasich standing in like a crossroads in the middle of nowhere, looking up at the camera and saying this.
America is at a crossroads. The stakes in this election are greater than any in modern times. Many of us have been deeply concerned about the current path we've been following for the past 4 years.
I think this is what was a better way to do it. As I recall, it seemed very familiar last night to see Kasich at the crossroads.
Brick road. Follow the Now which way do we go?
Pardon me. That way is a very nice way.
Who said that? Don't be silly, Toto. Scarecrows don't talk.
It's pleasant down that way, too.
That's funny. Wasn't he pointing the other way?
Of course, people do go both ways.
Why, you did say something, didn't you? Are you doing that on purpose? Or can't you make up your mind?
That's the trouble. I can't make up my mind. I haven't got a brain. Only straw.
How can you talk if you haven't got a brain?
I don't know. But some people without brains do an awful lot of talking, don't they?
Oh, ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth? 24 minutes before the hour. Let's welcome a buddy of mine who's got a John Kasich story. We're going to take a little trip down memory lane. Ray Richardson Jr. hosts the Ray Richardson Show on Greater Portland's new FM 100.5 WLOB News Talk Maine. And Ray, I was thinking about you and me at the RNC in Cleveland, Ohio in 2016. How you been, Ray?
I'm good, my friend. Yeah, that was a fun time. We enjoyed it very much. We had hoped to see you in Charlotte or Jacksonville, but I guess fate had another path.
So it did indeed. 2021 can't get here soon enough. We're going to get through this. We're going to get through it all. I have faith in America, but I will never forget you're telling me a story about then Governor John Kasich. So just a point of context here for a frame of reference. Most governors lobby for a political convention, Republicans or Democrats in their own state. It's great for the state. Kasich was no different. He lobbied for the RNC to come to Cleveland. It did, but he didn't like it when Donald Trump became the nominee, did he, Ray?
No, he didn't like it one bit. And as you may recall, he stubbornly stayed in the race, I guess delusionally thinking he had some prayer pulling this thing out, but we all knew better. I guess John was the only one who didn't. It's not the only thing. Last night was not the only time he was confused.
Well, and he was also a little bit lost at the convention center because the notable thing about John Kasich in 2016 was that he wouldn't even attend his own convention, right? But as Ray Richardson found out, he kind of did.
Well, and that's the thing, Mike. That was the big story. You know, John Kasich wouldn't show up in Cleveland. You know, a proud city, one that I had not been to before and never really wanted to go to. And my wife had the time of our lives there. We just loved Cleveland. But he wasn't there. At least that's what they kept telling us. But as you remember, Mike, they were trying to hold a vote on the floor to unbind delegates. And while John Kasich, the governor of Ohio, had said he was nowhere near the convention, I actually ran into him. You know, underneath where the convention was, there was a food court because it was sort of, you know, the one stacked on the other. And as he was walking out of the bathroom, I was walking in, and we stood there and talked for a moment. And then when his aide realized that I was asking him questions like someone from the media, he hustled him along, handed me his business card, and said, "Please give the governor a call later on." But so what John was actually doing, Mike, and you may recall this, he was hoping and praying they would unbind delegates, and then people could vote for him, and then he could show up riding his white stallion in Cleveland and claim the nomination.
Well, now he's standing at the crossroads in the middle of nowhere on the DNC. Ray, let's talk big picture about any self-described Republican who would speak at the Democrat National Convention.
Yeah, I just don't get this. I said this morning on my show. As far as John Kasich goes, when he was in the Congress, I was a fan of his. As you may recall, he helped Bill Clinton balance the budget, something that hadn't happened in decades, and he was a pretty conservative guy. And if he has a change of a philosophical view about how he sees America, God gave us free will, and the American government protects our freedom. He has the right to do that. But don't stand up there and say you're a Republican and then stand there and support Joe Biden for socialism. That's anti-American. I don't get it, Mike. I really don't.
That's what my buddy Mark Davis always points out. You can't even call John Kasich or any of these, Susan Molinari. Those aren't Republicans. You can't be a Republican and embrace socialism. You cannot possibly be a Republican and say you stand for desecrating the national anthem, attacking cops the way we've seen the mob. How about the couple in Portland Sunday night, Portland, Oregon, dragged out of their pickup truck and beaten? The guy was kicked in the head so viciously, I thought there was no way he survived it. Have you seen that video?
I haven't, but I have seen other videos where people have been dragged out of their vehicles. We had a mom here in Maine. She went up to see the president when he came to Bangor a couple of weeks ago. She wanted her kids to see Air Force One, and she got caught in a Black Lives Matter mob, and they just surrounded the car. They were screaming at her. They frightened her children. It was a horrific scene. She was detained 13 minutes. They finally let her go because somebody stepped in. But you actually had, and I'll just say this, there was an older white woman who claimed to be a teacher who was standing there screaming at her about what she wasn't teaching her children, having no idea who this woman was. Turns out the woman's a very accomplished professional, and they knew nothing about her. These are just crazy people. These are not normal Americans.
No, this is anti-American. And honestly, Ray, the video of George Floyd has changed the country in many ways. And I have said over and over again, we ought to have a conversation about doing better. We ought to have a conversation about never allowing something like what happened to George Floyd happen again. I believe with all of my heart, and I know and love law enforcement. So that video has been ingrained in the hearts and minds of millions and millions of people all over the world, Ray. I mean, there were protests and horrible reactions all over the world to that video. But if a black couple had been pulled out of their vehicle and beaten within an inch of the man's life the way this couple was in Portland, Oregon, we'd see and I'm playing it right now at MikeOnline.com so that people understand. We're not making this up. I'm not exaggerating it. This man is on the ground, on his knees, sitting there and just begging for his life, asking, and he is beaten. And as I understand, he's still in the hospital. He was kicked so hard in the head, Ray, that he was immediately knocked unconscious, laid there. The ambulance crew had to get police assistance because of, according to the Portland Police Department, a hostile crowd that wouldn't let the paramedics get to this guy who they almost killed. Now, again, if that had been a black victim, this is a video we would be seeing morning, noon, and night on CNN, NBC, all of them. Not this one. This is a little bit hard to see. Here you are, an accomplished radio host out of Maine, and you hadn't seen the video yet.
Yeah, it's crazy. You're absolutely right. If this had happened to a black couple, and this is the problem, it shouldn't be about black or white. It should be about right or wrong. No matter what the color of the skin the couple was, we should know about this. This is really what this election is all about. I've been saying for months, this isn't the most important election of my lifetime. I believe it's the most important election in American history. We right now are dealing with a level of atrocity. That's all I can come up with, because we're burning churches, we're burning buildings. You saw the gentleman out in St. Louis, a retired cop that was murdered. They're beating people in the streets. This is not America. And instead of having elected people stand up and allow the police to do their job, look, we don't want police brutality. Nobody wants that. No good cop wants that. But we've got a bunch of weak, woke, white people running major cities. Some of them are black. They're just weak and woke. And they're standing down as the hoodlums take over. That's not America.
Ray Richardson, keep up the good fight, my friend. Keep fighting the good fight and the great work you do on WLOB. Great to hear your voice.
Mike, as always, thank you.